I've worked with Roblox for many years now, and I've seen recurring patterns in the way that they handle feedback. Luckily, some of these are starting to change, but I thought I'd talk about them anyway. Hello everyone, I'm Dan, and let's talk about Roblox's feedback system. It wasn't so long ago that Roblox as a company was pretty universally reviled for their feedback processes. It was only a few years ago that even Roblox's top developers were disheartened about even supporting the company, because they just seemed to have a mind of their own and didn't really care what developers thought. At least that's what it looked like from the outside. It's one of the hidden through lines in my own videos criticizing the plugin marketplace. It's the reason why I got so fed up and eventually left, is because it just did not feel like any feedback was being taken on board and that nothing was happening. That's why the first thing I want to start this video with is that this has changed, at least at the top level. The new leadership, Nick and Tian, have done an amazing job changing the culture at Roblox to be much more feedback orientated and much more about listening to developers and serving developers rather than serving the company's own vision, though that still happens a lot. I shouldn't really have to spell out why this is a good thing. Developers are ultimately the people who generate Roblox's value, not Roblox's product leaders who have some vision of how the platform should look. The way that I've always talked about it is that vision should be the long-term direction in which we're going to be assisting developers towards, whereas in the short term, we should just be assisting developers and listening to what they say. I'm happy to report that in all of my conversations with the new leadership, they seem to really understand this principle, and so I am endlessly happy with what they have done. They have brought so many useful features to Roblox, as you saw at RDC 2023, just by allowing them to happen because developers were asking for them, which is a massive thing that hasn't been happening for the past few years. So literally, I know I compliment them all the time. I'm like the #1 leader of their fan club or whatever, but thank you. But unfortunately, this is not enough content for a whole video, so there must be something else I'm about to talk about, right? Roblox does the right thing is hardly an interesting video topic. Where is it going wrong? It's no secret that when it comes to Roblox nowadays, it's a lottery as to whether you are working with an internal team who values your feedback to the extent where it will be elevated through to the final product. Some teams have historically been fantastic at this. The language teams, the teams on physics and rendering have historically been amazing at integrating developer feedback. They really understand the developer experience. Meanwhile, there are other teams, such as most recently the UGC team, who don't seem to do a good job of integrating developer feedback, at least according to developers, who, let's be real, are the people who matter here. While I would love to make a video on what's happening in the UGC marketplace, the reality is I'm not qualified and all of my creator friends are busy doing other things. So instead, we'll talk about something I am qualified to talk about: UI design. Roblox recently unveiled this new look for the Roblox topbar. It's a nice, modern, clean design. The touch targets are larger, so it works better on mobile. And it's been very controversial because it takes up a lot of space. Trust me when I say that designing mobile UI is already insanely hard. The top right corner is some of the most valuable free real estate in Roblox right now. It's where most games put many important actions because it's one of the few spaces that are actually free. Many other parts of the screen are either occupied by the 3D viewport or Roblox's other core UI, chat, backpack stuff, etc. It's also highly valuable for actions that are used quite often because on mobile, the ergonomics work out that your right thumb is used less than your left thumb, and underneath your right thumb, well, that's where this free space is. So it's often used for very quick actions like turning on torches or performing certain moves in fighting games, etc, etc, etc. The big gripe that almost all UI designers I've talked to have with this new design is that Roblox have basically taken that space for themselves, leaving us with nowhere else to spill out our UI into without making some serious sacrifices. The sentiment is echoed pretty universally throughout the dev forum, most mildly as people being tired of having to redesign their UI a 4th time, and perhaps most critically, that Roblox really just needs to move everything to the left. This is completely wasting space. It's not hard to see how Roblox could simply have moved the settings menu underneath this collapsible button, moved the collapsible button to the left, and have taken up only marginally more space than their old UI. This is a complete possibility, and it's even something that I know prototypes exist of. So it's even more confusing when they continue to push this direction in the face of negative developer feedback. But what's more cheeky is how they responded to it. Let's get back to our main subject matter. How does Roblox take in feedback? Well, one way is that Roblox hears the community talking about all of these problems and stays radio silent. This is historically what we've been treated to, a deluxe experience by Roblox's upper management and middle management. And historically, Nobody likes it because everyone knows what the silence means. Screw your feedback, our vision is more important, and we can't even be bothered to talk to you about it. We're just going to roll it out and you will have to deal with it. Does Roblox intend to use those words exactly? Probably not. Would their PR team spin it somehow differently? Probably. But ultimately, when you discard feedback without even so much as responding with a "we hear you," that is exactly the message that is sent to developers. And historically, Roblox have gotten a lot of flack for that. This doesn't seem to happen as much anymore, especially since the leadership changes, so I think Roblox have realized this is a bad idea. I think the general vibe that the internal teams have is that you should acknowledge feedback. At minimum, you should acknowledge that it is there, because if you don't, then it looks like you don't care. Which brings me to the next way that Roblox can respond to feedback. They can see that the community is getting really mad about something and say, "We are hearing you and taking on board your feedback. Please continue to post more." And then A, not making any changes in response to it, and B, not even addressing the concerns that the feedback is raising. This is what's happening here. In the follow-up post to this UI change, Roblox explicitly acknowledged that the feedback is being heard, that people are very critical of this right-hand sideness, people are very critical of the amount of space it takes up, and generally the illogical structure of the UI and the inconsistent reasoning behind it. And they just repeated their original reasoning and said, "We still believe this is the correct way to go," while not actually addressing any of the concerns raised other than saying, "Yeah, we've seen them." I would like to emphasize this is not much better than the first option. I mean, great, you hear our feedback, we at least know that you're listening now, which is fantastic. But what? Why are you not taking on the feedback? Have you not thought about it? Have you not considered it? Has it not gone through a process? Are you just sticking to a line? Do you just have a vision that's overriding everything we're saying? How are we supposed to deal with this? It was so bad that I ended up making a follow-up post that basically outlined almost exhaustively all of the reasons I could think of why this was a bad change in alignment with their justification for wanting to do it. Feedback is not free. There is a contract being held here. One side is the developers who are offering their expensive and valuable time to give you feedback about what you're doing wrong in anticipation that you will work with them in order to make it better and make sure that they can continue generating revenue for the company. On the other side of it, Roblox has an obligation to listen for this feedback and serve developers, which is in their own interests anyway, because if they weren't to do that, developers would get disheartened and leave, and therefore take Roblox's value with them. This response basically has the appearance of upholding that contract, while pretty easily falling down when you poked it with a stick. In the words of one of my anonymous friends, "I made it clear that if it launches on the right, I will not attend any more design meetings because my time is valuable and I meant it. I'll still attend plenty of other meetings, but I'm not going to spend hours in a room of unanimous developer agreement just to be told to deal with it. They even placated us with left-hand mockups. What a shame." Unfortunately, this is hardly a new thing. We've seen this a lot, especially when Roblox is pushing their vision as part of the product announcement. So I'm going to give a name to this sort of behavior so that we can use it in the future to talk about this kind of pattern. Hearwashing. It's the idea that a company says, "We hear your feedback, we are taking it on board, and we will make changes accordingly," or whatever to that effect. And then A does nothing with the feedback, and B does not even talk to you about why that feedback is invalid or give any sort of feedback or response whatsoever, or at least no proper one. In this case, it would be the follow-up post that says, "We hear your concerns about it being on the left, but we believe it should be on the right, and here's our original reasoning that doesn't address any of your feedback." Now, look, we are reasonable people here. Everyone is well, okay, I'm not going to say everyone, the dev forum is a bit of the people who matter the most here are agreeable, they are sensible, and you can talk them into changing their mind. We are only giving this feedback because we disagree with the set of logic presented in front of us, not because of any personal vendetta. If there was a valid reason for making this change, why aren't we being told? If there's statistics that back it up, why aren't they being shown? Why are we not having a two-way conversation? Because ultimately, nobody's mind is going to be changed by reiterating the same vision lines. In my own follow-up post to this update, I outlined all of the reasons why I did not agree with Roblox's reasoning justifying this change. For example, how the immersiveness logic was just not consistently applied and didn't seem to be important in favor of other things like the ease of accessing certain options like reporting, how ergonomics just did not seem to matter for Roblox's core UI given that it's not a game-critical action, and instead was just taking up the ergonomic space used by actual developers for making actual time-sensitive controls accessible to mobile users. I talked about the immediate access logic and how a cold option like settings is ending up at the top level of the UI while something hot like chat is halfway across the entire screen, and of course how mobile developers are already struggling with space and that if they just stuck to the same corner they were already using, the increase in size would be far more palatable and not require us to completely rethink our game's information hierarchy. These are all fully fleshed out, multi-paragraph breakdowns of my own logic going into this update. Why has it not been addressed? Why does it not look like anyone is going to address it? Why is this acceptable? If the purpose of the follow-up was to get more people on their side, that's absolutely not what happened because it was just an insult to people's intelligence. People have been making many more good points than those that I listed, and they haven't been responded to either, which just basically turns the entire thing into marketing. And developers don't buy marketing, they buy solutions. If they wanted to get people on their side, the way to do that is not by just sticking to a line and ignoring feedback. The way that you do it is you go to the people making the feedback, you break it down bit by bit, here are each of the individual points they're making, and you say, here's why I agree, here's why I disagree, whatever it may be, addressing the feedback wholly, coming to a conclusion based on the back of that, being open to changing your mind and accepting that you were wrong, or maybe if you're sticking to a line and you still are continuing in the same direction, explaining why the feedback they have given does not justify changing direction properly, not just copying out to some vision statement or something that they have no way of proving or understanding. Once you've done all of that, you arrive at a solution that maybe wasn't what you started with, and maybe it wasn't your original vision, but in the end works better for everyone and ensures that developers are happy, that you are happy, that there's no bad blood, that people understand their feedback is properly being taken on board, and ultimately moves Roblox in a better direction. Because, and I think some product managers need to hear this, your vision does not matter. Your vision is simply a long-term direction. What you need to be building is solutions for now, with the vision generally guiding what areas you are going to explore next. You do not use vision as a cop-out to build the wrong short-term features. Because you know what happens to companies that are singularly vision-focused and don't actually deliver solutions for their users? They die. It's kind of a taboo word, but they die. If you aren't generating value for the people who use your platform, they will leave. We got very close to this a few years ago. Top developers were contemplating jumping ship. It was only that the new leadership changed the direction that we avoided that whole crisis. Roblox was this close to going off the deep end with their developer relations. The fact that they haven't shows that this works. So to recapitulate the entire thesis of this video, Roblox have gotten better at taking on feedback, and I am grateful for that, and I will recognize success where I see it. I am so happy about the new leadership understanding these things innately. But there are some internal teams and some managers who haven't got the memo, who think that they can just power through developer feedback like it's some kind of obstacle to be stepped over, without realizing that you are serving the developers, you are not serving the vision. Roblox got very close to screwing the pooch on this one. Roblox got very close to completely alienating their entire developer community. Let's not do that again. Let's try and work together this time. Because if we can work together, if we can make sure that value is consistently being delivered in the right places, Roblox can be around for so much longer than anyone thinks. We care. We all care. It's the reason we give feedback in the first place. So listen. I've been Dan, and I'll see you guys next time. Have fun.